In my last video, I told you that the AL developer job is dying, and a lot of you pushed back. But, uh, but here's what I didn't explain well enough. I'm not saying you are dying. I'm saying the job title is dying. The role is dying. The identity is dying. And that's actually good news, because what's replacing it is better, more interesting, more valuable, more future proof. Today, I want to talk about what it actually means to become a technical architect and why most Business Central developers are thinking about it completely wrong. Let me describe a career path. See if it sounds familiar. You start as a junior developer, you learn AL, or back in the day, you learn CIL. You get good enough at it, really good. You learn the patterns, the tricks, the workarounds. You become the person people come to when something is broken. Years pass. You know the code base inside and out. You've seen every weird edge case. You can write a processing report in your sleep. And then one day you realize you're stuck. You're a senior developer now, maybe lead. But what's next? Management? You didn't get into this to sit in meetings. Stay technical? You're already at the top of the technical ladder. There's nowhere to go. This is the developer trap. And almost everyone falls into it. We define ourselves by the code we write, by the language we know, by the system we're experts in. I'm a BC developer. I'm an AL expert. I am a nav guy. And the identity, that box we put ourselves in, becomes a cage. The hard truth, the more specialized you become in one thing, the more vulnerable you are when that thing changes or gets automated or becomes a commodity, which brings us back to AL. So what is a technical architect and why is it different from a senior developer? Let me tell you what it's not first. It's not just a fancy title for someone who's been coding a long time. It's not someone who draws diagrams instead of writing code. It's not a promotion you get for being good at AL. Here's the difference in one sentence. A developer asks, how do I build this? An architect asks, should we build this? And if so, where does it fit? When a developer looks at a requirement, they see code, tables, pages, code units. They think about syntax, patterns, performance. When an architect looks at the same requirements, they see systems, data flows, integration points, business processes, total cost of ownership risk. Let me give you a real example. Customer says, we need to track serial numbers for our products. Developer thinking, okay, I need to set up item tracking codes, configure the serial number tracking, maybe extend some pages, write some validation logic. Architect to thinking, wait, where else does this serial number data need to go? Does the web shop need it? Does the warehouse system need it? Is BC the source of truth? Or is it coming from somewhere else? What happens when a serial number is created? Who else needs to know? What's the volume? What's the latency requirement? Is standard BC item tracking actually the right solution? Or would a custom solution integrate better with the broader ecosystem? See the difference? The developer is solving immediate problem. The architect is solving the system problem. Both are necessary, but one is replaceable by AI. The other isn't, at least not yet. I want to give you something practical. 5 questions that architects ask that most developers never think about. Start asking these questions and you start thinking like an architect. Question 1. What's the source of truth? For any piece of data, where does it live? Where is it mastered? This sounds simple, but I've seen entire projects fail because nobody asked this question up front. Customer data, is BC the master or is it the CRM? Product data, does it come from a PIM system? Pricing, who owns it? If you don't know the source of truth, you'll build integrations that fight each other. You'll have data conflicts, you'll have sync nightmares. Question number 2. What happens when this fails? Developer thinks about the happy path. Architects think about the failure modes. What happens when the API is down? What happens when the message queue is full? What happens when someone enters unexpected data? Not just show an error message. What happens to the business? Can they still ship orders? Can they still invoice? Design for failure, because failure will happen. Question number 3. Who else needs to know? When something changes in BC, who else cares? A sales order is created. Does the warehouse system need to know? Does the web shop need to update their stock? Does the CFO's dashboard need to be refreshed? This is where you start thinking about events, webhooks, message queues, integration patterns. This is where BC stops being an island and becomes part of an ecosystem. Question number 4. What's the total cost of ownership? Building something is easy cost to see. Maintaining it for 10 years, that's the cost that kills you. Standard functionality has a maintenance cost. Microsoft changes it, you adapt. Custom code has a maintenance cost. You change it, you test it, you document it. Integration has a maintenance cost. API changes, systems get replaced. Architects think about the lifetime of the solution, not just the build. Question number 5. What problem are we actually solving? This is the big one. Customers don't always know what they need. They know what they want. They know their symptoms, but the underlying problem, that takes digging. We need a custom approval flow. Do you? Or do you need better visibility into it, to who approved what? Or do you need to fix the upstream process that's creating so many exceptions? Sometimes the best architecture decision is to not build something. These 5 questions don't require any technical skills. No AL, no Azure, no coding, but they require a completely different way of thinking, a wider lens, a system perspective. That's the architect mindset. Now let me be honest about something. This transaction is uncomfortable. I've been a developer for a long time. Writing code is what I do. It's satisfying, it's concrete. You write code, it works. You see the results, immediate feedback. Architecture is fuzzy. You make decisions today that you won't know were right for years. Your influence without direct control. You have to communicate with people who don't speak tech. And there's an identity piece here that we need to talk about. When you're a great developer, that's who you are. It's your reputation, it's your value, it's what people know you for. Letting go of that, even partially, feels like you're giving something up. Am I still technical if I'm not writing code every day? Will people still respect me? Am I becoming one of those architects who can't actually build anything? Here's what I've learned. The best architects are the ones who can still build, who stay technical enough to call bullshit when needed, who can prototype when the team is stuck. You're not giving up your technical skills. You're adding a new layer on top. Think of it like this. You're not stopping being a developer. You're becoming a developer who can also see the whole board. The practical reality, you'll probably still write code, but the code isn't your value anymore. Your value is knowing which code to write and which code not to write, and which systems should talk to each other, and which problems are worth solving. The code becomes a tool. The architecture becomes a craft. Okay, so how do you actually make this shift? Let me give you some concrete steps. Take whatever you're working on right now. Step back. Draw the boxes. Where does data come from? Where does it go? What other systems touch this? What happens upstream? What happens downstream? You might be surprised how little you know about the systems around you. That's where you start learning. Step number 2, start asking why more than how. When you get a requirement, don't jump to a solution mode. Ask why. Why do you need this report? Maybe they need a dashboard instead. Why manual entry? Maybe there's an integration opportunity. Why this workflow? Maybe the process itself is broken. You will annoy some people at first. That's okay. The question matters. Step number 3. Learn the systems around BC. You don't need to be an expert in everything, but you need to know what's out there. What does Asia Service Bus do? What's the difference between Logic Apps and Power Automate? What's an API gateway? What's a data warehouse? You don't need to build all of these. You need to know when to use them. Step number 4. Get in the room. Architects aren't just technical. They communicate, they influence, they translate between business and tech. Start joining the meetings you normally skip, the requirements gathering, the stakeholder discussions, the project kickoffs. Listen to how business people talk about their problems. Learn their language. Understand their priorities. The best technical decisions means nothing if you can't get a buy-in. Step number 5. Document your thinking, not just your code. Developers document what they build. Architects document why. Start writing decision records. We choose X over Y because of Z. When you document your reasoning, you're forced to clarify your thinking. You're building a track record of architectural decisions. None of this happens overnight. It's a gradual shift, a widening of perspective. But every conversation you will ever ask why instead of jumping to code, every diagram you draw that shows the bigger picture, every decision you make about what not to build, you're becoming an architect. Let me bring this back to where we started. The AL developer role as a standalone identity is becoming less valuable. AI can write code. The code itself is becoming a commodity. But the ability to see systems, to ask the right questions, to design solutions that fit into a larger ecosystem, to make decisions that hold up over time, that's not going away. In fact, it's becoming more valuable. As systems become more complex and more connected, you have a choice. You can double down on AL, become the best coder, and race against AI. Or you can zoom out, become the person who directs the code, who designs the systems, who sees the whole board. I know which bet I am making. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear where you are in your journey. Are you making the shift? Are you stuck? What's holding you back? Drop a comment, let's talk. And if you missed my previous video on the hard truths about BC development in 2026, I'll link it here. It sets up the why behind everything we talked about today. See you in the next one.